everyone. My name is Mai. I'm currently the Interim Director of Career Services at Herzing College in Toronto. I have experiences connecting more than 200 students to employers, mainly in Greater Toronto area in various sectors. At Transform Your Future, I provide my expertise in employment coaching for people in transition from education to work.
Awesome. Thank you, Mai. And Charmaine, do you want to share a bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So my name is Charmaine, and by day, I'm an engagement coordinator at Seneca, where I promote my departments and events on social media. And then by night, I work with the team here with Mai and Vivian in creating a strong marketing and outreach strategy so we can help as many people as possible.
Awesome. So now for today's agenda, Mai, can you go to the next slide, please? Awesome. So for today's agenda, we will be covering 3 bullet points: why you should have a LinkedIn profile, reviewing the essential components of a LinkedIn profile that will help you stand out to recruiters, and also how to expand your network on LinkedIn. So to get started, what is LinkedIn? In order for us to generate an attractive profile, we need to explore a little bit about the history of LinkedIn and what it has become today. As you can see on the slide, it was launched back in 2003 and purchased by Microsoft in 2016 for $26.2 billion. So obviously, a tech giant like Microsoft has recognized its value. Now, one of the top social media platforms with over 756 million members worldwide, LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. So in Canada alone, Mai, can you switch to the next slide, please? So in Canada alone, there's 17 million members on LinkedIn, and our population itself is only 38 million. When you take into account the number of people that are not currently in the workplace, not in the working population, that results to over half of Canada on LinkedIn alone. So it is not only the best place for you to promote yourself and grow your network, but also a great place to find your next job opportunity. Can we move to the next slide, please? Have you heard of the Great Resignation? Please participate and enter in the chat. Do you know what the Great Resignation is? Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. Maya? Cool. Yvonette, great. So some people do and some people don't. So what the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle is the current job market is flooded with job opportunities. So it's actually, I love it, Simon, everyone's quitting. Yes and no. So that being said, the Great Resignation is the push towards more of a candidate market. It's no longer just the employer who has the right to make decisions and who has the right to say yes or no to you, but you equally have the right to say yes or no to an employer in a case. Sorry, Gail? Gail, did you want to say something? Okay, my apologies. So with the increasing competition in the market, companies are no longer just passively waiting for candidates to apply to roles, but companies are actually hiring headhunters like myself to actively find talent. So moving on to the next slide, I wanted to share a little bit about what percentage of recruiters do you think are using LinkedIn to evaluate a candidate? If you want to put it in the chat. No, Mai, you're revealing the answer.
Sorry about that.
And you caught it. You caught it. 87%. is using LinkedIn as a platform to seek out candidates. And as you can see in the picture, right? As you can see in the picture, we're not only using LinkedIn, but there's also other social media platforms as well. But I think the other social media platforms are more sector specific and industry specific. LinkedIn is the most common platform that recruiters use worldwide to select candidates across all sectors. Typically more professional sectors than in the customer service space or in the healthcare space. Mostly LinkedIn is used for the professional sector. Perfect. So on to the next slide to answer the first question that we originally thought about. Why have a LinkedIn profile? So if those stats that I provided you previously were not good enough, there is actually 3 people hired on LinkedIn every minute and 55 job applications submitted each second to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn actually, over the past couple of years, helped 122 million people receive an interview through LinkedIn. So you can see that it is a very active platform. For number 2, there's 35.5 million people who are actually hired by a person that they connected with on LinkedIn, meaning that LinkedIn is not just for job applications, but you can also use it for networking purposes. Connecting with people is a long-term game, and you never know where that will lead you. And last but not least, for the third point, as I mentioned earlier, companies are actually putting money and into their recruitment efforts in headhunting. So they're no longer passive and waiting for applicants to come through, whether it be through LinkedIn, Indeed, or various platforms. They're actually putting money into recruitment platforms such as LinkedIn and such as headhunters like myself to go out to market and actually find talent in the market. So next, we will be discussing the tips and the takeaways. So it is actually very important for all of us to have a complete and optimized profile on LinkedIn with keywords. If I may say, it's your branding platform as a secondary to your resume, because your LinkedIn profile gets seen before your resume typically gets seen. And 72% of recruiters actually view typos negatively. So you make sure, just as you would with your resume, you should proofread your profile on LinkedIn. Second thing is to optimize your profile. Having a profile picture gives you 14 times more views. And having a completed profile actually increases your connections by 5 times. So growing your network by 5 times by just having a full profile with your current position. Last but not least, you can increase your visibility on LinkedIn, meaning that when a recruiter or when anyone is searching for you, you can increase your searchability by 31-fold just by completing your experience section. LinkedIn, just like any other platform like YouTube, like Instagram, they go by search optimization, right? So you having more details in your resume makes your profile more searchable and makes it easier for recruiters to reach out to you, and also helps you with half of your job search. Awesome. So that completes my section of the presentation. I will next pass this along to Charmaine to move through our second bullet point of the various sections of LinkedIn that will make you stand out.
Great. Hi, thanks for that, Vivian. That was really informative. I'm going to be taking over, and I'm going to be talking about the sections of a LinkedIn profile. I don't know how many people of you are actually on LinkedIn, or you might be using it, but not very frequently. But I'm going to be asking some interaction here. And I'm going to be asking to in the chat if you could list some of the sections that you remember a LinkedIn profile has. So what are some of the sections? Can some people put in some of your answers in the chat box? Yeah. About me, your profile, yeah. Anything else? The education summary, experience, education scale. Yep, experience is a really big one for sure. The headline, yep. Skills, languages, projects, courses, certificates, yep. Okay.
Knowing you. That's an interesting one, Ronaldo.
So I guess it's about me, right? Endorsement, yeah, they call it recommendations on there. Yep, you have an opportunity to put your website, your interests as well. Okay, Mike, can you show this stuff? All right, great. So these are a couple of the ones that I've mentioned. So you guys hit some of them. So you would have the header, you have the, oh, can you go back, Mike? Thanks. Header, you have featured, about, experience, education, volunteering, skills, recommendations, honors and awards, and languages. But today we're going to focus on a couple that I think are very important and that you should definitely 100% have on your profile, which is your header, your about, experience, education, and recommendations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of a profile, and we're going to talk about why each of them is a strong profile and why you think it stands out to a recruiter, for example. So moving on, next one, Mai. So this is a profile. This is actually a career course I've taken from LinkedIn. So here is his top section. The top section is really important because usually in the header, you find out a lot about the person immediately, and it's what attracts you to want to connect with them or want to learn from them. So looking at this profile on the chat box, tell me, why do you think this header is a strong one? What makes it a strong header? What does it include? What does he include here that you think makes it strong?
I can give a hint. I mentioned one of them earlier in my tips and takeaways.
Yep.
You're listening, Ronaldo.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, keywords. Picture, current position, keywords. Yep. So I could list a couple of them. Yeah, so his position, definitely he was CEO. What he's able to offer, so he's offering free job resources. He talks about what he specializes in, so he helps non-traditional background land jobs. Of course, he talks about some of where he's featured and where he's gained some of his fame, which is like Forbes, Insider, Times, to show accreditation. Of course, his profile picture is very important to establish his face. Like, you want to see his face and who he is. He has a banner which shows, a little bit of what he does. And I mean, I've covered it, but like his website was there. He has his social media there. And then also his location. Location is very important. I think some people don't think about this, but when recruiters look, they do try to find people by the location. So putting in the right location, putting where you are, that's how people find you. And then he also talks about, what does he talk about? His hashtags. What is his expertise? And you immediately see that right away. All right, next one. All right, so same thing. So this is about section. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to just, read it through a little bit and then tell me what you think stands out about his about profile. Yep, very detailed. What are some of the main points of his details that makes it great? Yep, he has some highlights about him. Yeah, some of his accomplishments. He talks about free resources. Yeah, so bringing people in. Yep, he uses paragraphs. Yeah, spacing is very important. White space helps you to put a lot of ideas together. but also giving a lot of space for people to read it and giving them more information, but in a very good structure.
So one point, Charmaine, I'm going to make. Jay Cardinal, I think that is a really good point. He's saying what he can help before he says his name and what his interests are. So he's putting he knows his audience, and he's putting his audience first before himself.
Yeah, and that's very important as well, because you want to like, he knows who he's targeting and what he's offering. So he's offering it right away, right in the first line. Let me see what else. It's like a mini resume summary. Yeah, perfect. He states his value. Yep. And then making it relatable as well. Yeah, he's asking like, does this sound like you in your career? And this is my name and this is what I do. So he's trying to make it as relatable as possible. And he states his mission and brand. Yeah, very great. So exactly. So the about section is really an opportunity for you to shine, give a little bit about yourself even before people see your experiences. All right, next one. Mike? So here is his experience. And yeah, just really quickly, I mean, I just taken a little bit of a snippet of his profile, of course, the main one. But can you tell me what you think makes this experience great? Or what makes his profile great about this? What is he highlighting? Stats, yeah. Numbers are very important. If you can provide as much stats as possible, his achievements, he's quantifying it. Yeah, you definitely want to show your accomplishments in numbers if you can, as much as possible. All right, so that's a good summary. Next one. So here I'm just gonna quickly run through the education. So yeah, so just listing, education is really important as well. You want to talk about what school you went to, some of your achievement. Like for him, he talks about he's being on Dean's honors list, he's on the Chancellor honors list, and then something that he also did while he was in school, which is help bridge the gap and help 200 plus Highlanders get jobs. So you can already see, even through his education, he's already on his way in helping people and providing that kind of help. And last one, right? Yeah, and then recommendations. So we always stress that you should have recommendations. Your recommendations is your proof of what you are able to do and what you're able to offer through the words of others. So it's also very important that you network, you create those connections. You want to create those positive connections so that people can make good recommendations for you. And it is okay to ask for recommendations, because immediately people know what you can do because people vouch for you. So it is very important to think about who can recommend you on your profile to make yourself to stand out a little bit more. All right, Mai, your turn.
Perfect. One thing I want to add about the recommendations is, as a recruiter, I actually do look at people's recommendations just to understand a little bit more of people. And by recommendations, we're not asking you to ask for recommendations from anyone, right? You really want to know. The whole point of a LinkedIn profile is to know your audience. And that being said, you need to know, if your target is recruiters, that you have recommendations from your colleagues or from your manager. So my LinkedIn profile, I'm a recruiter, so my target is candidates. Right? So my recommendations are from candidates, and they're also from the business, so that I am a trusted partner for my audience when they want to read up about me, or when they want to learn about how I work and how I recruit and how I work with them in their career search.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Vivian. Thanks for bringing that up, because I think, like people want to know that, are you a trusted recruiter? And people trust you when they're working with you. So it's I think it's great that you brought that up as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, Mai, can you take it on for our third bullet point, which is networking and how to use LinkedIn for networking?
All right. Thank you, Vivian. Hello, everyone, again. My name is Mai. So I'm going to talk a little bit more with you about networking. So now you already know how to have an outstanding LinkedIn profile. And the next step, of course, is to expand your network. So basically, there are two sections about networking on LinkedIn. The first one is personal branding, and the second is personal connection. So for personal branding, make sure that you invested time for your profile and also to write more content and interact frequently to show your topic of interest to the mass audience. So the next part is to increase your personal connection. So this one is also very important. You can start with your immediate network, such as people in the same company, the same industry, or your university alumni. You may also request for informational interviews with people in your connection. So what I did is to use my inbox to message with people directly. And so remember that without the connection, you must pay for a premium account to send messages. And that is why it's worth to connect with more people. So how should you start when you send message to people? You should find something in common and make sure to be genuine. For example, you can find article that both of you may like, or because you work in the same industry, you may have specific question to ask them. A lot of people tell me that they're not feeling good about networking. So what I could suggest them is to think about networking as a way to establish long-term relationship instead of seeking for immediate gain. Thinking about it like growing a tree. All right, so now we have been through the three sections. What is LinkedIn? How to create an outstanding LinkedIn profile, and how to do networking. So please stay until the end of the workshop today for the Q&A section, and we will also have a small gift to all of you. If you want to learn more, we will have more workshops over the next few weeks. So basically, we will have, in the next 2 weeks, we will have a series of 5 workshops about LinkedIn. And in 1 hour of interactive workshop, we'll cover a component of LinkedIn, why is it important, and we will have a live practice section with examples and recommendations. So here is a gift for all of you. If you attend this workshop, we're offering you a 10% discount to our workshop series. You can get this package of 5 workshops for only $90. But remember to use the promotion code Korea101. And now we will give you the registration link in the chat box. So after this section, we will go to the Q&A. Prepare any question you have. You can either type in the chat box or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. We are here to answer any question related to LinkedIn.
Great, thanks, Mai. So we will be opening up the last 30 minutes of this workshop for questions. And like I mentioned, I'm going to quickly first go through the chat to answer some of the questions that you've already posted, and then feel free to unmute yourself or post on the chat any additional questions you may have in regards to our content that we've already shared, if you wanted to clarify anything, or if you had any questions about us and our future LinkedIn workshops as well. That being said, I'm just going to go through the chat. Let me know if I missed anything because there was a lot of answers. First, with Nav L, you wanted to ask if the recording will be shared later. The recording will not be shared. It's more for our own purposes, but we will connect and we can send you the slide deck after the meeting. Okay. And for Jay Cardinal, you were asking if you were in a different, or if you're changing a different career path, would you still add the other one? Or would you add recommendations from people from a different industry? Um, yes, I would, right? Because LinkedIn is a stamp of your career. So that being said, the recommendation doesn't have to be exactly what you're doing now. And honestly, not everyone's career path is straight, right? There's definitely people move career paths, people change from one industry to another industry. So I think what the recommendation section is really for is for you to build credibility, right? And for you to show that you have those transferable skills. So having someone vouch for you and put up a recommendation for you, take their 2 minutes, take the 5 minutes of their time to write and think about what is their experiences working with you will be beneficial to you regardless of whether you're staying in the same trajectory, same career path, or if you're moving to another career path.
Yeah, I think also about transferable skills as well, right? Highlighting those transferable skills, even if you're not in the same career, in the same type of industry, you can definitely, when you write your experience, just try to target your transferable skills in the new industry that you wish to go into, and I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Layla, you're asking, I understand the need for metrics in your resume and profile, but what if you're coming from an industry that does not quantify anything? How do you create a strong resume then? So the quantifying, the stats, right? It depends on your audience, right? And it depends on the career that you're taking. If you feel that the career that you in, maybe stats aren't the best thing, right? Stats don't necessarily have to be for everyone. And that's why when you're generating your career profile, when you're generating your LinkedIn or your resume, first of all, the number one tip I have for all of you is your resume and your LinkedIn should always match. So make sure your dates, your titles match from your resume to your LinkedIn. The second thing is in regards to quantifying. I think in every career path, there should be something that is an achievement, right? Even if it's not necessarily numbers, you want to always focus on what is your contribution and what was your impact to the organization or to your team. So if it's not stats driven, make sure you have what is your contribution or what is your impact to stand out. Let me see if there's any other questions. Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask while I'm looking through the chat. Or if I missed your question, if it was earlier on, feel free to type it in again or unmute yourself.
I think we have somebody raise their hand.
Yeah, okay. I think we're having more questions coming in.
Cool. Feel free to unmute yourself. You don't have to raise your hand. Just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Who was it, Mai? Did you want me to read the questions to you, Vivian?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, so I'm just looking. So here it says, yeah, so Lila just added on, it says, I'm trying to break into customer success and they love their stats. But I think you've already covered a bit of that, right?
Yeah, but I can cover a little bit more, right?
Sure.
Just so customer success is actually about the customer. And yes, they do measure at the end of the day how you convert your relationships. But at the same time, if you depend on what career path you came from, right? You might want to focus on, you don't want to focus on what they don't have or what they're not looking for, but you want to focus on you don't want to focus on what they're looking for that you don't have. You want to focus on what they're looking for that you do have, right? So that's the number one thing, is if your previous role was really customer focused, right? Or really relationship based, or if you made any kind of successes, wins, conversions. Those are things that you can speak to, even if it's not necessarily proven in numbers. If you were able to share that you made a win, that is a great point to bring up. Another thing that was a theme in our topic today as well is networking, right? Networking is a way to get you into a field that you're transitioning into. But you don't want to go into the networking asking for a job, right? So just like Mai said, you really want to start your networking as a way of building a relationship. I know Mai does it, I do it, where every week, and I don't do it just because I'm a recruiter. I don't connect with people just because I'm a recruiter, or I'm not just connecting with people that are who I'm recruiting for, right? On a weekly basis, I connect with 10 people. Like, I just send connection requests, right? I look through their profile. It may be for my own career growth benefit. It may be that we had something in common. I just go on LinkedIn, and you should be intentional. So for example, most of my connections are in the tech space because I'm a tech recruiter, or most of my connections are in the recruitment space because I'm a recruiter, right? So I would go through and look at people's profiles that are of interest to me. And the more people you have, the more connections you will get. And I will find commonalities in them and be genuine in my ask when I reach out to them to ask for their time, because everyone's time is valuable and they're putting out time for you because you want something from them, right? But at the same time, you want to be genuine and build that relationship instead of asking them for a job. Just really genuinely wanting to know them as a person. Sorry, what was the other question?
I recognize there's a question that I may help to answer.
Sure.
The question from Emily. So this basically the question for every early career people who have no experience and now trying to get the co-op or internship opportunity. So now I'm helping students getting internship, and that's where my expertise come in. So basically, I realized that a lot of students, they underestimate the volunteering or unpaid job that they have. So anything related, or if you have transferable skill that you learn from that experience, just write it down right away. And also utilize your school network. For example, I'm doing the career services and I'm helping students connecting to employers. So if it's via the school connection, usually your resume can be more easily noticed compared to you apply directly on Indeed or LinkedIn, because people like to hire via connections. I have one example where one student, they apply for the internship job to PwC directly on their career page, but they get rejected right away. And after is I connected with the recruiter, I sent the resume, and he got the interview. So that shows how people like to recruit via connection. So I mean, for the so in general, for co-op and internship student, my recommendation is writing down all the experiences you have, and also review the subjects that you learn in the class. Student may get the question like, what kind of subjects you like the most in your program, or what are your plans to apply those knowledge into your internship. And sometimes people just list out the subject that they learn, but they don't know how to give details. So try to also look at the subject you learn. For example, if you study accounting, make sure that you list out the subject that you like the most, and that the area that you want to develop. For example, bookkeeping skill. So use that skill into write into your resume, and also write any relevant experience. Don't underestimate anything, even volunteering or unpaid.
Yeah, I can add to that actually. So I agree that you definitely should have volunteer experience or any kind of previous work experience, co-op, internship experience, those definitely help for your profile to stand out in front of recruiters because, and not just recruiters, really hiring managers, because at the end of the day, when you're doing the interview, you need something to talk about, right? You need examples. You need to prove what you've done and why you would be of value to the organization. But if you don't have volunteer experience, if you don't have co-op experience, depending on the type of job that you are, I think a lot can freelance, right? A lot can build your own brand. So for example, if you're in media, right, you might want to build a profile for yourself, right? If you're in development, you might want to build your own website, right? And now, like, building a website is so easy. You can use WordPress and these different sites that you really don't need development skills in order to showcase your experience. So one thing I would encourage everyone is to think about your brand, think about what you have to provide to the organization, right? Even if you don't bring experiences, what do you bring, right? And even in school, people go attend case competitions. If you're in businesses, I'm sure you're not shy of case competitions that you can use to leverage as a talking point, right? If you're in finance, if you had any freelance work, if you had any contract work, that might be something you want to talk about too, right? How you helped a particular client save money, how you helped a particular client with their investments, whatever it may be. One other thing I wanted to see, this is another question, and Mai or Charmaine, feel free to pitch in as well. But this question is, I would like to ask what kind of experiences you should add to your LinkedIn profile. Does entry-level part-time experience make your profile look unattractive? So for this question, I would say it really depends on what stage of your career you're in, right? If you're in an entry-level position, again, part-time experience, if it is relevant to what area of work you're looking for, then yes, include it. But if it's, let's say you're trying to get a job in development and you had a part-time survival job at McDonald's, might not be the most relevant, right? Unless you have certain skills you really want to share or show, then put it in your profile. But otherwise, I would focus, instead of on that part-time job that maybe is a survival job, I would focus more on your previous achievements, whether it's in school, whether it's additional side projects that you took on. What makes you special, right? What makes you different from all the other people applying to the same position? I don't think it's not attractive. Again, at the end of the day, it depends on which direction you're planning to go. If you're able to find commonalities, able to find transitions, then yes, you should add them in. But if it's completely not relevant, then you might want to shorten your profile and just make it concise.
Yeah, I would also like to add to that. I think like with these profiles too, you can decide how much information you want to put out there, right? So the more relevant it is, the more you can write more about that. Especially if you have a goal in mind of, what kind of industry you want to go to, or what kind of job you want. And, maybe you have this one experience that has more relevant than another experience. So maybe you can focus on writing a bit more on that one instead. Mai, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I totally agree. The keyword is still relevant. So as long as you have relevant experience, no matter that is volunteer or unpaid, you should write it down. And also I agree with Vivian that depending on your level, like for example, are you entry level or you are in the middle, you are seeking for middle level position?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm just going to see what else questions I have. I think there's another one that we haven't had a chance to go through yet with An. How can I signal to recruiters that I want to move to a new industry without letting my current employer notice that I will leave soon?
Yeah. So this is always a challenging
That's a
one
good question.
because it's always a challenging one because everyone wants to kind of see what's out there, but uh, they don't want their current employer to know.
Yeah.
So one thing I would say is if you've ever seen the open to work, I don't know what it's called, like trend, like the change. You don't have to put on the open to work picture in your profile. You just have to select that you're open to work, and it's only viewable by recruiters. So that is an option and to look into. Another thing I would say is if you're trying to get headhunted, right? Headhunting, like for recruiters like me who actually are actively on LinkedIn trying to find candidates, talent, you definitely need to show, number one, you're open to work, right? That will help you get recruiters reaching out to you. But if you're trying to at the same time transition career paths, then the best way might be applying directly to organizations, making connections with people in the organization that you want to join or in the role that you want to join. Because if you're trying, you're not, it's really hard to transition if you don't tailor your profile, right? Because no one knows that you're transitioning into a new role or a new area if you don't tell them. So maybe the best way, and depending on what your timeline is, right? If you're looking at it as a short-term game and you want to get transition right away, then I would say really focus on your resume, your cover letter, and apply directly to the organizations that you're interested in. And a cover letter is very important when you're transitioning because you want to be able to show that there's a reason why you want to transition, right? That's number one. If it's more of a long-term game for you, and then I would suggest that you network with people. When you're talking to people in that industry, you can start your message and like Mai said earlier, right? Use your inbox, connect with people, find a commonality, and just tell them, hey, I noticed this about your profile. It really stood out. And this is actually a career path that I am exploring at this point in time. And I would love to pick your brain. I would love to set up a coffee chat with you in order to further learn about your experiences. And then when you set up that coffee chat, make sure you go there prepared, right? You really want to have a list of questions ready so that you are able to get what you wanted to get out of them. And then at the end of the day, you can always say, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to network with you. If anything comes to mind, or if anything comes up that is in this industry, taking entry level roles or that you think would suit my skills, I would greatly appreciate your referral, right? Networking is one thing, but referral is also another thing. Asking for referral in a way that doesn't feel like people need to do it for you is a skill, right? And practice makes perfect. Next, there's a message from Rose. How far back should you go on your experience on LinkedIn and resume? Great question. Again, comes with how many years of experience you bring, right? Typically, I would say it may be good to still list out your experience in the past, but you don't necessarily need to go in detail because no one really looks at anything definitely no one will look at anything 10 years ago, right? Maybe anywhere between 5 to 10 years, you could have like your title, your date, the time that you're working there, because especially if you were working at good organizations if there's a specific thing you want to highlight, maybe put one sentence in there. But I would focus really on the meat of your resume or your profile to be in the last 3 to 5 years of experience and really have those top bullet points, 3 to 5 bullet points to highlight your impact in the last 3 to 5 years. Anything else you want to add, Charmaine or Mai?
I think, yeah, that's great. Yeah, like I said, like you should always focus on the most relevant experience. And, you know, with those profiles, you can write as much or as less as possible, right? So whatever, if one experience has more relevant to the industry they want to change, then I think that's definitely, you should write a little bit more on that and try and make it as relatable as possible.
Great note, Gerald. I just saw networking and everyone to share their LinkedIn profiles. Yes. So, for example, attending one of these sessions is a great way to network with people. Like just in this session alone, I don't know how many people are attending. I think 67. You already have 67 people that you can chat with, right? And not just our session, but any kind of like event meetup is also a great way for you to meet other people and a great way for you to connect with people on LinkedIn. Just say, hey, I saw you at this networking event, or hey, thank you so much for your presentation at this event. It was so informative. I would love to connect with you offline to learn a little bit more about what you do or learn a little bit more about whatever your ask is, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think someone just asked about that too. What is the secret to messaging a recruiter asking for an informal interview to discuss an open position?
Yeah. So honestly speaking, every recruiter has their own style, and honestly, one thing to keep in mind is that recruiters are also industry focused. If not, they're even role focused, right? So right now, throughout my career as a tech recruiter, I've done all areas of tech, but more recently I focused on cybersecurity and then now in development. So when you're reaching out to a recruiter, you really want to please spend some time and look at their profile, right? I have people from finance reaching out to me asking for a job. I have people from customer service reaching out to me asking for a job, right? But I wouldn't have connections in that area at all, because just like you are specialized in finance or in customer service or in customer success or sales, I'm specialized in tech, right? So, and every industry recruits differently. Every company recruits differently. So number one thing is, if you're reaching out to a recruiter, make sure you read their profile, right? Understand that they are your target before you reach out. Another thing is, recruiters probably get so many messages on a day-to-day. I would say your better bet is to not reach out to a recruiter and reach out to someone in the organization, right? If you can find the manager, that's great. If you can find someone working in the particular industry or in the particular job that you want, that's even better, and get their referral or get them to connect you to someone, right? That would probably be better than reaching out directly to a recruiter. If you do reach out directly to a recruiter, try to find, like, some organizations have jobs and they list who the recruiter is, right? So for those jobs, definitely reach out to the recruiter, and definitely make sure that you have your sell points ready to share with them as well.
Yeah, I would also like to add that I agree with you, Vivian. Like sometimes we don't necessarily reach out to the recruiters for informational interview. You can reach out to anyone working in that company as well. Actually, I've been messaging many people, and my successful rate was really high. That surprised me as well, because by nature, people want to connect. And if you can find something in common and you can, just send a message to them, usually 80% of people agree to meet. And I'm sure that you will be surprised by how successful it will be. So
I think so too. Yeah, I think people on LinkedIn, especially people, if you find that they're active on LinkedIn, those are the people who are always willing to help. And I don't know how many people look at the job section on LinkedIn to find jobs, but sometimes they have the recruiter name, and you can reach out directly and just introduce yourself and be like, oh, I'm interested in this position. I saw that it's open. I'll just love to talk to you more about it. And I've had a the manager who was recruiting that position, like they told me like they really appreciate that, because that like now they don't have to, you know, go through all those resumes, and they know that there's an interested candidate right here and then. And they even told me like, you know, like they looked through my LinkedIn and immediately gave me feedback and told me like, oh, whether they think I'll be good for that position or another one. So yeah.
One other thing I would add to that is me, like when I was looking, before I even decide on transitioning careers in any direction. So before I decided to move to Amazon AWS, I actually was deciding if I wanted to stay in recruitment or not. And I was exploring tech sales as an option, or customer success as an option. And what I did is, before I even started applying, before I even started doing anything, I started looking at people in LinkedIn. I'd use LinkedIn as a platform to search for people. And I reached out to them to ask them, like, I had no purpose. I wasn't asking them for a job. I was just asking them for an informative coffee chat, right? I wanted to know, what do they do? What does their day-to-day look like? And determine if that's really the job or that's the career path I wanted to go forward with. And just like Mai said, my response rate was like 80%. And especially during COVID, right? People want to meet with you. People want to talk to you. Maybe not in person, hopefully more in person now, but definitely virtually. But make sure you're going into the informational interview with an objective, with a goal, right? You don't want to go in empty-handed. You don't want to go in without doing your research, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
I think we had another message from, I think that's the last one we could talk about, but Annie and Anne talked about that they reached out to a recruiter of a tech job that they applied on the same day, and then they never heard back. Should they follow up? I think so. I think recruiters usually get busy, and, you know, following up can show you initiative.
Yeah, I would say it never hurts to follow up. And also, at the end of the day, you have to understand that applicants, it really, at the end of the day, depends on who you're going against. If you go on any LinkedIn profile, sometimes LinkedIn job, sometimes you see 100 applications or 200 applications, right? It's really hard for a recruiter to get back to everyone. And honestly, like, my LinkedIn profile sometimes has like 50 unread messages because I just don't have the time to get to it. I will get to it eventually. But that being said, yes, number one is follow up with the recruiter. That may help. But even if they don't respond, you can try other methods, right? If they haven't responded to you, I definitely suggest to follow up. But if not, find other methods. Like, if you're looking at a job, let's say for my role, let's say the team that I'm supporting right now is CloudFront at AWS. So if a developer was looking specifically at my organization or my product that they're looking to develop for, then a lot of developers, a lot of managers put which unit, which department, which business unit they're working with, right, on LinkedIn. So Google them, message them directly, say, hey, I recruited or I applied to your position. This is my, just wanted to give you a heads up, and this is my profile. Please do let me know if I would be a good fit, right? Or something like that. If you can tell them why you're a good fit instead of asking them, that would be even better, right? Of course, there's a lot to tailor in terms of your message, but being strategic and being, sometimes it's less about the numbers and it's more about strategy, right? And whether you're genuine in your approach. Just like I would not ever recommend someone to just hit the apply button on LinkedIn to 20 roles, because as a recruiter, I'm looking at your profile internally, and if it's 20 different roles that you're applying to, I would question, what is this person's actual skill set?
Yeah, that's a really great answer. That's very helpful. I think we're nearing our end of our time. It's been very interactive. So I just want to thank you everyone for coming. And we just want to remind you that we do plan to have future workshops in the next few weeks. and that each workshop, it will be 1 hour and it'll be tailored toward one section of LinkedIn. We plan to make it as interactive as possible. And we want to help you to craft each section and provide that immediate feedback, which is what you'll be able to get in these small sessions that we're going to be offering. My Vivian, did you want to have any last words?
I do wanted to ask Charmaine, is there a way for us maybe to create some sort of group that we can connect all these individuals that have attended our session for today?
Yeah, we have a Facebook group that we already have created. And then I could just send that out and then ask everyone to join in.
Awesome. And if there's any questions left us unasked, I did leave my LinkedIn profile on there for you all to connect. I do apologize. I am really busy lately, so it might take me some time, but I will slowly get through them. And if I don't, remember following up is a good tactic.
Yeah, following up, I think being persistent is very important, and of course being strategic as well. But thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys found it really helpful, and it was so lovely to host it and provide all that information for you, and I hope you had a great time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.